Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Hello, hi, Charlotte. Hello, Bronwyn. I, we are very much on time, very punctual this morning. Bronwyn, you need to request. Here you go.
We're here.
Good
Hello,
morning, good
hello.
evening.
Yes, that's right. Evening for me, morning for you.
That's right. Can you see me well? Can
I
you hear me?
can, and you with me, same?
Perfect.
Okay,
Yes, perfect. We'll just
good.
wait for a few seconds for more people to join. And yes, I'll do the little introduction about the series and a little introduction from my side about you, and then we'll just chat.
Okay, do you want me to go away and come back or
No,
okay.
no, I don't want you to go away at all. Not at all. How are you?
Doing very well, thank you. All things considered, yes, much to be grateful for.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, and it all will be memory one way or another soon.
Yeah, indeed. So I was speaking to somebody today on a meeting and they were like, "Well, this is definitely a year we will not forget." And that is an
Exactly.
understatement. It's like,
That is an
anytime anybody
understatement.
mentions 2020, be like, "Oh, yeah, I remember
Yes,
that year."
you'll remember that.
Yeah.
So,
But may there be many great positive lessons eventually that come out of
exactly,
this.
exactly, absolutely. Well, I think we have quite a number of people joining in and join, so perhaps shall we start? I will just say a few words and then we'll move into just
Okay.
very interesting topics that I'm very
Okay.
much interested.
I'm sorry, I'm going to try to adjust my camera slightly, but
Sure,
we'll see. Hopefully it'll stay in place. There.
perfect.
You'd think as a filmmaker I could figure that out, right?
Well, well, welcome everybody to our conversations with Olga, and thank you so much for joining us in Asia, in America, on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and everywhere else around the world if you're awake, and happy to join us. Just a few words about Conversations with Olga. Conversations with Olga I've started during the lockdown, as you can imagine, because I had more time and I decided to connect to my dear friends, to incredible people on IGTV series that are fostering intellectual and cultural exchange between influential individuals from all over the world. These individuals are sharing their personal life stories and in hopes to inspire and cultivate the more diverse and inclusive community all around the world. Today is my sixth episode, and it is my honor to introduce a fabulous Bronwyn Cornelius. And I'll say a few words about Bronwyn, if you don't mind, Bronwyn, and then
Please.
you'll just I'll
You'll
open
you'll
the
make me blush, but sure, go ahead.
well, it's all truth. Bronwyn is an award-winning Los Angeles-based filmmaker. She recently developed and produced critic favorite film Clemency. I'm sure many of you have seen it. If not, please watch. The film won the 2019 Sundance Grand Jury Prize and was nominated for 3 Independent Spirit Awards, including Best Feature. Bronwyn is a champion of diverse voices behind and in front of the camera. You've been developing a state of female-driven projects, and we'll talk about it a bit later. You're an independent producer and produced films starring many respected Academy Award winners and nominated actors, including Alfred Woodard, Sam Shepard, and Melissa Leo, just to name a few. In your previous life, in your professional experience, I know that you've spent several years in Wall Street, and we'll talk about it a little bit as well, and you've traveled all around the world. You're a very, very multicultural person, and I gravitate to it very much. And you're also a board chair emerita and remain actively involved with the international nonprofit Global Girl Media and a member of BAFTA. and the Producers Guild of America, just to name a few. It is my great pleasure to welcome you, Bronwyn,
Thank
to
you.
the conversations this morning, this evening.
Thank you for having me, Olga.
Um, it's a pleasure. And we'll start a little bit with your journey. I would like you to share how did it happen, the switch from the film. You told me that you started actually your career from the filmmaking and went into the Wall Street and switched back. So I would like you to share actually your switch of a in a fairly opposite career path, and how did this happen, and what then brought you back to film?
Yeah, it's been a very peppered journey, as they say. Lots of great adventures. I like to do and try new things, but I actually started as an assistant to a line producer in the studio world 20-ish years ago, and I also had a background in acting. And I was just wildly passionate about the entertainment industry. In fact, ever since I was a little girl, I had grown up in Los Angeles. My mom had been a model and commercial spokesperson, and so I always grew up around sets and the entertainment industry, and I was fascinated from when I was a little girl. So I think it was sort of in my blood, and sort of the stars in my eyes from a very young age. And then when I had the most extraordinary opportunity presented to go work for a line producer, John Schofield, as I said, sort of in the studio world, I absolutely jumped at the chance. And that was its own career change at the time. I had no idea what that meant, and was fortunate to discover that it really was like going to film school. I mean, I learned about budgets and scheduling and dealing with directors and producers and crew and studio executives. And although I was on the periphery and I was assisting the producer, it exposed me to what it was like, to what a film set was like, how sort of like the entertainment industry worked in general. And I was completely hooked. I thought it was extraordinary. And I only wish that it was interesting, even though I had sort of grown up on sets as a little girl, I hadn't been around as a teenager, and I didn't understand what the different positions were and what everybody did. And once I got an idea of what that was and how many different careers there were in it, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it was like this gigantic creative puzzle that was being put together. So I did that for a few years with John Schofield. And then we started to put together, in between studio films, some independent productions and advising on the packaging and financing. And one of the things that we kept coming up against, or that was clear for me, is it's like, where do you get the money? How does it work? And understanding that. And because it sounds like a very circuitous and bizarre route, and it is in some ways, but sometimes life works like that. I had started my career in Hong Kong, actually, prior to working with John, and I had worked in the world of public relations and marketing. And because of that background, I got offered a job working on Wall Street.
Got
And
it.
it was unexpected. It was certainly not a world that I anticipated going into. John had gone off to do a film in Africa at the time, and they were going to hire a local assistant for him. So I was a little bit high and dry, not knowing what to do with myself. And so it seemed like a great opportunity to go and live in New York, which I loved. I was going to have to go study and learn all of my, pass all of my series exams in order to it was to be a sales trader. So I had to pass my various financial exams. And I thought, it's a fantastic opportunity. Again, I
To
felt like
learn,
I
I
was
think,
being,
for fundraising for the movies, to be a producer, I think it was definitely one course for you to understand the nitty gritty of
exactly.
raising the funds.
And even just understanding the psychology, right,
Yes,
of sort of like how financiers thought and how it
exactly.
worked, and um, understanding return on investment. These were not things that I was versed in. And so having the opportunity to sort of like dive in, as I said, understanding the psychology. So I thought that I could at least go for a year or two and see how it worked out. I ended up staying almost 5 years. And
That's
And
quite a
but
career. 5 years on Wall Street could be very,
yeah,
very
it's about
burning.
4 or 5 years. It
Yes,
was very educational. It was
sure.
a great experience, very educational. And but entertainment and movies was still always on my
Your
mind. It
passion.
was my greatest passion, and so I decided to move back to Los Angeles and take that experience,
Yes,
and the various experiences, interestingly, sort of like marketing, finance, and the studio work all came together to create sort of this perfect environment for independent producing. And
right.
so when I moved back to Los Angeles, that
Then
was what I went into.
switch back to your passion,
Yes,
but with
yes,
more
yes,
knowledge.
yes, exactly. So that was it was just a great it was a great gift and a great journey to sort of go around and be able to
Absolutely.
come back
Yes, and also
with that.
experience different cultures and different worlds and different
Yes.
places to live in. And that brings me to mention about your work on the feature films. And I believe it began with award-winning movie at As Good as It Gets, isn't it, with Jerry Maguire. Can you tell us a little bit of your involvement in that film?
Yes, so Jerry Maguire and As Good as It Gets. I'm just going to interrupt you for 1 second. Is there a
Sure.
really loud noise in the background for you?
From
Like
your
a
side or from my
Yeah,
side?
from my side.
Not at all.
Okay, all right. I just
No.
wanted to make sure because I can hear
No,
it. I want to
because I
make
have
sure.
a construction at the outside of my house as well. I was
Okay.
going to ask you the same thing. So,
Okay. No, I cannot. But
we
I
all
was like,
good?
I hope that you and the audience are not hearing that. All right, we
No,
are good.
no, not at all.
Sorry. Okay. So to answer your question, so Jerry Maguire, and then immediately followed by As Good as It Gets, was the opportunity that I had working with John Schofield. So those were both over with Gracie Films at Sony Pictures, and so I was assistant to the line producer.
Okay.
And the line producer is different from the executive producers or producing like what I do now, in that they are doing the budget and the schedules, and they're managing the crew, and they're dealing between the director and the studio executives, and really managing and overseeing. It's like a huge project
Yeah, it's very much of a
manager.
hands-on, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
yes,
really like, well, I was one of the,
exciting.
and my background in PR in Hong Kong, as I mentioned, some of that had included project management and event
Yes.
management, and it's all similar. It's all definitely a similar
Yeah.
mindset and sort of a similar skill set, in that you are
Similar skills to
managing.
what actually I do probably, so I can
I would
definitely
imagine
relate
so. Exactly.
to
With your
this
events, whether it's your
situation.
locations and your crews, and you're producing events, and
Absolutely.
this was producing movies. So it the different skill sets that sort of came into play, and that was really the opportunity and involvement that I had on Jerry Maguire and As Good as It Gets. I thought that I had died and gone to heaven. It was just the most fantastic experience all around.
And then I'm sure it increased your skills and it would give you a little, even more insight on what you, I guess, want to do, and perhaps to know whether you want to be a director or producer in general.
Yes, I think that that's absolutely true, because I did not know or understand prior to that what a producer or a director did. I knew what an actor did, um, and you hear, and writing is very clear what it is, and acting is very clear. But although I, like many people, will have heard the term producers and directors thrown around
Yeah.
often, I didn't really understand what that meant or what it took to do that. And so that work and that career opportunity exposed me to that, and it definitely helped to put me on a track which I'm still on. And even though there was that time on Wall Street, it still very much is all on that same track. And then now, as a filmmaker and as a producer, and I'm moving into directing as well, I always intended to direct. I always wanted to direct, but it was a matter of getting that skill set and
Yes.
learning, and seeing when was the right moment.
Yes, I understand. Perfect. And that actually brings me to you gravitated toward advocacy of for the female-centered creators and diversity, isn't it? And you are ardent supporter of female content creators and overall diverse voices. Can you tell us a little bit more about it, about your projects, and the importance of it.
Yes, I'd say, well, that is another one of my passions greatly. I mean, certainly female empowerment and amplifying women's voices and girls' voices, which ties into my philanthropic work as well.
Yes.
But the we have had a distinct lack of diverse voices in the entertainment sphere probably forever. You know,
Yes.
until very recently there have not been the opportunities for women or people of color to tell their stories and to tell them through their lens and through their perspective. It was very often
Yes.
others or men, frankly, that were speaking about the female perspective. And it doesn't mean that a lot of them didn't do a great job. They did. You know, there are a lot of men who write women very well, and of course, and it's women that are bringing those roles to life. But the complexities and the actual experience and those lived moments, only women or people of color that have lived those experiences are going to really be able to bring that perspective to the world stage and to
Yeah.
entertainment. That is my belief, and I'm thrilled to see a shift that is occurring.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. Do you see the shift, and do you have a lot of like-minded people in Hollywood these days? And has it changed since recent times? And well, how do you view the shift, and what is your opinion on it?
There definitely is a notable shift that is occurring. I would say in the last 5-ish years, um, there's been more openness to female content creators and female filmmakers. It doesn't mean that it hasn't been very hard or that it's not still hard to get films financed and made. That is the case across the board. But it used to be that you would hear it's a female director, nobody's going to want to finance it, period, which was a
Got
pretty
it.
hard pill to swallow.
Yes.
So that has started to shift. I mean, female content creators, I think I'm seeing this year for what I will say the first time are in demand. You know, black
I demand. So this, you definitely
filmmakers of
see
color
less.
are, and we need more of it. You know, we definitely need more of it. But the fact that there is a notable shift and people are starting to pay attention, and executives and financiers and studios and networks are starting to realize that it is not only important, but it actually makes economic sense, because all you have to do is look at the world and how much diversity is in it, and we need to be creating content that speaks to the tapestry of
Yes.
everybody, and not even speaking to like-minded individuals, but also allowing us all the opportunity to experience and see and watch different stories and points of views and perspectives. There's a real richness to that.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, and that brings me to a subject of everyone's obsession, I should say, one point of their lives is Hollywood. You know, you've been extremely grounded and extremely real person, and you know but the Hollywood life is has a definitely celebrity factor, stars, and another part of it is behind the scenes. And you as a part of the Hollywood footprint, nevertheless, as I said, you've been extremely grounded. How do you manage to be real and authentic the way I know you?
Well, thank you for that. That's a great compliment. So thank you, Olga. Um, I, you know, surrounding yourself with really great, supportive, honest, loving people, I think
Yes,
is key. I'm very fortunate to have a great group of people around me that are going to make sure that I stay
that you're
grounded.
grounded.
Yeah. And that is important. You know, it's like I think
Yes,
we need to be reminded and trust those people.
yes,
Um, and then also, it's really important to not lose sense of self. You know, who you are and what's important to you as an individual. What makes you tick? It's very easy to try to become something else to please others and lose yourself.
Absolutely.
I think we've all probably been guilty of that at times in our lives. I know that I have, certainly, and sort of, maybe not being as authentic as I would like to be as far as my pursuits. And really, I think it's making a concerted effort and making
Yeah.
sure that you stay true to self. And a word that you will hear me use a lot, that back to passion. If I think that if you're honest with yourself and you are really, really true about your passion and you are driven by
You're true to
that,
yourself and you express it
yes,
in an authentic way, I believe.
yes. And I think that probably enables a person and myself to stay on track and be authentic.
I
Um,
absolutely
but I
agree,
think
and
for
I
all of us,
better
it
for
takes
it.
work.
Yes, I
Yeah, you'll
know.
find, I'm sure, the same
Absolutely
thing,
the
right?
same, to being true to yourself and yes, to reevaluate certain things and yes, to basically prioritize. Absolutely. And then it just, you come out in a more of a real and authentic way. But it's a journey. You're definitely absolutely correct. We
For
all
sure. And
go
and
through it and learn.
and connect, I mean, I think like how you and I connect, it's like you find people
The
that
energy is the
that
same.
resonate. Exactly. You find like-minded people at similar energy, sort of a loving, kind, open, authentic energy.
Yes.
That's certainly what I found when we met. And
Thank you.
but some of that comes with many years of scars and experience.
Ab- Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I totally agree. And so I assume you enjoy and you like living in LA, and this is your home, and for since so many years, and you're not planning to move somewhere else, or you
Oh,
have
I
to come back to Asia.
never say never. I don't know,
Never say
Olga.
never.
No,
Yeah,
I'm a gypsy at heart, or a
yeah.
wanderer at heart, I should say.
Until
And I love exploring the world. I love experience in being with different cultures
yes,
and having that opportunity to interact with people all over the world. And so never say never. I mean,
yeah,
I'm from LA, and so I've been here on and off my whole life, but I have been fortunate enough to live in many places. I was at school in England for many years. I lived in Hong Kong. I lived in New York. I was in Spain for a time. So I've I've been fortunate enough
yeah.
to have a lot of different experiences. But for right now, LA is
Is
a
a home.
perfect place for me. It's a home. It's where certainly where the industry I've chosen to be in and create in
Yes,
is based.
of course.
And California is a beautiful state. We're
Yes,
very, very blessed.
beautiful, nature-wise and health-wise, and absolutely,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
the vibe-wise.
I was on a walk this morning in the hills right above, Hollywood, and saw about 12 deer all around, it's like all around the lake up there, and it's like it's right there in your backyard. So that's nice. You get the
That's
city life
wonderful to
and
be
the
attached to
nature.
nature. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to ask you about the Clemency Project. How did you come about it, and how difficult it was to push it through and to fundraise for this film?
Um,
Well acclaimed film.
Thank you. It was an amazing ride. It was a very challenging ride for sure. Sometimes, as they say, some of the most rewarding experiences are very challenging. I was uh, fortunate to have been approached by the writer director Chinoya Chuku through the Chicago Film Festival
Okay.
about four years before we got the film made, 4 to 5 years before we had the film made. And it was a script form at the time. I was in production on something else at the time when I read the script, and so wasn't able to sort of dive straight into it, but it stuck with me. It was for you, I believe, have seen it, and other people who may be listening who have seen it. It's a harrowing and very powerful film. And back
Yeah.
to sort of saying
It's a
about
very difficult storyline.
yeah, and it's not it's a challenging film to watch because it really confronts you, I think, and as you say, challenging storyline, and it's a very emotional
Yes.
film, and that in the script stuck with me. So I teamed, after I finished that one production, I teamed up with Chinoya Chukwu, the writer-director, and we embarked on a journey of further developing the script and working on attaching our lead talent, which was Alfre Woodard, who is absolutely
Yes.
stellar in
Stellar,
the
yes.
film. She was wonderful enough to be attached to the project, I'd say for at least 2 years before we got it made, because she did, she believed in the story, and it moved her as well. But it was a very, very difficult film to get financed. I don't think today it would be quite as difficult. But back to what we were speaking about before
Yes.
and the lack of diversity, we had a female director, was a Black female director, was a female producer, Black female lead, and all of those things, and a social issues
Yes.
film and a drama. It's like those were all negative marks against it, frankly.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
it,
Sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, but nevertheless, um, you got so many incredible awards, including the Sundance Award, Grand Jury Prize.
Yeah, it's, I mean,
This is
in the end, I mean, not go, again, back to
yes.
passion. It was determination and passion, of myself and the director. It's like we were not going, we and Alfre, we were not giving up. We were going full throttle on it. Wendell
Yes.
Pierce, one of the wonderful cast members in it, he was on board early on as well. And it's like we were all determined to get it made. And fortunately, we found a group out of a financing team out of Malaysia called Ace Pictures Entertainment. And they came on board and was very bold. It was the first project that they ever financed. They've done several projects since, several feature films since. And we ended up having an incredible ride. I mean, when it got accepted to Sundance, I think I sort of fell to my knees and just cried because it was been
I
such
can
a,
imagine. That actually brings me to the question, how does it feel? And you just answered actually. How does it feel emotionally to be accepted into this incredibly important film festivals around the world and be regarded?
yeah,
How
I
did
mean,
you feel?
it felt it felt incredible in that the most important thing was it meant that the film was going to get seen, and it was going to get seen by real cinema lovers, and it was going to get seen by people that could help it get out into the world and really make a difference. Because
Yeah.
in addition to it, the film and the filmmaking and the art of it, which is of course very important, this has a very important message. It has a message that clearly the writer director was determined to tell, and I, as the producer, having partnered up with her, were determined to tell. And we really wanted it to be a vehicle to help ignite conversations towards social change, and that's around mass incarceration, the conversation of the imbalance of how many Black and Brown people are incarcerated, the issues around the death penalty, the ethical and emotional issues, and not just for those who are on death row, but all of the people in the
Yes.
system that are having to help kill somebody, basically. And so it was an extraordinary feeling to know that this project that we had poured so much into emotionally and energy wise was going to be able to get out into the world. So that was great.
Wonderful. And talking about the energy wise, do you have a gut feeling that the film is going to win, that you will be the winner? And
No,
is there some kind of a premonition in your inner
no,
gut inside? Do you are
no.
you no,
No, I mean,
really?
there's an awful lot of, you have great intentions and you work towards it and you have tons of hope and, dreams and all kinds of things. But there are tens of thousands of films that are submitted to these festivals and to Sundance in particular. And so getting in felt like a huge win anyway. And then I can honestly say that we had zero idea
Really?
that we
But
would win
I
any kind of award.
but are you an optimist?
I'm definitely an optimist. Yeah,
Here you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
so you project the positivity, you project the energy
Okay,
that
thank you, Olga. I've been manifesting,
for sure
definitely.
you manifest exactly, and I think it's very important. I do that.
I don't know, for me personally, I cannot, I can't imagine being able to survive in in this business that I've chosen and not be an optimist.
True.
I don't know if perhaps you feel the same way
Oh,
with what you're
absolutely.
doing, but
Yes.
I have to believe. I mean, it's all built on
It's all built on
believing and
faith. Yes.
pulling it out
And
of the ether and making it happen. It's like you have to believe.
and what motivates you in your projects? How do you find the motivation and what drives you? Is there something that you aim for in general, overall?
Um, yeah, I have to again, passion, as I said, you can get bored of that word, so I apologize. But I, if I'm only going to attach to projects, whether that's as a producer or a director, that I feel wildly passionate about,
Passionate.
that I feel it's a story that I have to tell, or that I have to absolutely do everything in my power to try to make sure that it is told. And I think that for me, my motivation is I aim to change perspectives through my art and through the content that I create. And
That's
that
where
is
we
the
link to one another. I totally gravitate to the same thing. I exactly feel the same. So I'm just
so
fantastic.
and right, so you probably find the same. It's like that
Yes.
motivates you. That I
Yes.
bound out of bed every morning. I am so excited about the fact that that I'm taking on this challenge to try to even be a blip in, to potentially, if it's not change the conversation, maybe it's just illuminate another perspective to be
Yes.
considered in the conversation.
And being a well-known in Hollywood as a producer and director, is it important to you, or to your ego?
I like to think that
Honestly.
it's not. Well, I mean, I am not well known by sort of
Well,
star standards. I do hope that that increases for sure, because that will allow me more opportunities to tell stories and to tell stories that reach bigger audiences. So yes, it's important in that way. I like to think that it's not because of ego, and that I need to be recognized for what I'm doing,
yes.
or be validated for what I'm doing. I like to think that that is not the reason. I don't believe that it is, but it does matter having a certain degree of popularity and being known, because you're going to be on people's radars and be able to accomplish and get things done.
So what does it mean for you to be a star? What is the definition of a star?
I do, that I always think of the star more as like celebrities, as far as the actors, actresses, rock stars, people in the music industry. I think of those people really more being stars, because I think that they're more front facing to the public. I think a star can mean many things. These days, there's certainly celebrity that makes people a star, and I think often, I think that could be interpreted in many ways. It's like
Yeah.
I often think of that star quality is often people who have a confidence or an authenticity, or aren't afraid to be themselves. I think that that's very often we might what we might see in the people that become stars. But
Well,
that's
that's
one
positive. Yes, if
you
that's
know people that are really willing to put themselves out there, and are, yeah, just willing to put themselves out there and be
got it.
themselves and share that with the world. 'Cause
Got
that's not
it.
an
So
easy thing to do.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. And it's great to know, and let's hope that this is the motivation for all the stars whom we know, who are trying to be stars. And I would like to move to another subject, and another hat that you've been wearing is philanthropy. I know that you have been very avid about fundraising and philanthropy and causes for it. And how do you feel? How does COVID actually affected philanthropy, in your opinion, especially for the causes that you fundraise? Maybe you can tell us a little bit.
Um, I, I mean, I definitely remain as active as possible in the philanthropic community, and I think that this has been a very unique year in that some philanthropy and activism has perhaps shifted, and that different and focus has sort of like gone elsewhere because everything that has been happening with things like Black Lives Matter and different movements and with politics, and that there has been a lot, there have been a lot of things that have been at the forefront and on the world stage that I dare say have gotten a lot of attention, and I hope have raised a lot of money towards positive change. It, of course, has been very challenging for organizations to carry out programs that they usually do, to do fundraising events that they usually do, and to sort of stay engaged and stay connected with their with their donors and
Yes.
with the people that are aligned in the organization in any way, shape, or form. Whether that is working for and or doing the fundraising, or the people that are on the ground and perhaps even sort of like benefiting for some of it. So I think that really this year and going into 2021, now more than ever, we need to be supportive of those. If we are able, we need to be very philanthropic and need to be supportive, but it's a bit catch-22 because it's a
Yes.
very, very challenging time right now.
Yes.
And
And do you feel that people are more giving, or is the other way around? Just through your observations during this extremely
I
challenging
think that it's probably
surreal year.
both. And obviously it's sort of just based on one opinion and sort
Yes.
of what I'm seeing or hearing, but I think it's a little bit of both. And I think that it probably needs to be, because there's so much uncertainty. There's far more uncertainty in people's lives. And there have been a lot of great challenges in people's lives, which may change their philanthropic work or previous habits, for lack of a better word. And then at the same time, I think that there are a number of people who do realize their position of privilege, or even just their ability to support now,
Yes.
and that are therefore doing more. So I can only hope that it's finding its balance in different ways.
Let's hope too. And your causes are extremely very close to my heart, because you are supporting the youth and education, and you're one of the people who founding partner of the Generation 21, and it's if I'm correct, is dedicated to aiding the fulfillment of the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. And so you're, I believe, a very avid supporter and of the young generation. And can you tell us a little bit more about your cause and the importance of the fundraising for the education of Generation Z and all these other abbreviated generations that are so in vogue to be called by different names? And what is the importance of the education of the youth these days to you?
All very good questions. So Generation 21 and G21.com was a past initiative and foundation that I had co-founded with a dear friend and partner, Bob Weber, many years ago. It was when the first MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, were announced. So 2004, 2005, long time ago. And as a result of that work and the goals and the work that we tended, and that I tended in particular to do more work around, were around girls and women. And that was actually when we ended up closing Generation 21. I ended up shifting my work and my focus into being a supporter of Global Girl Media. Started out on the advisory board, ended up becoming a board member, and then ultimately board chair. And I was able to sort of take that experience and that context and that passion around empowering and educating girls, because that's an organization that is dedicated to really sort of like filmmaking and journalism skills for young women around the world. And it's all about empowering them by amplifying their voices. It's wanting to ensure that they have the knowledge of these industries, which many of them have never been exposed to, that they have those skills, but that also that they realize the power and importance of their voices.
So
And
these are the
so,
key elements of the concept that you're trying to promote and support, isn't
yes,
it?
So Global Girl Media is still very much out there going strong. It's been about 14 years now, I believe, that has been in existence. And that very much brings, it brings the filmmaking, it brings the storytelling, it brings the youth education, and it brings the empowerment of girls all into one. So it made an awful lot of sense to get involved there. And then another cause, if you like, that's very dear to my heart is microloans for women around the world to support their businesses.
That's
Which
wonderful.
again,
Any particular businesses? Any particular area? What
no,
are the
not
criteria?
um, I do a lot of that through Kiva, actually, a lot of the work through Kiva and a couple of other similar organizations to that. But it's very important to me to support women-owned businesses because, again, I think it gives them an agency and an authority and a power to their own lives. Very often, not only are they able to be independent in running their businesses, but with the money they make, they often ensure that their children are educated. So again,
Yes,
it sort of ties back into those causes that
absolutely.
you're talking about. So it's sort of like empowering them, giving them agency, and focusing on the education of the youth for the future. So
It's all
those
grooming.
two, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So that is what I tend, and then I'm still get to be involved what I would call in sort of social justice work and doing what I believe in through my filmmaking and development of TV projects, just in a different capacity.
Absolutely. Going back to the filmmaking, and you just mentioned about still your passion and your motivation. How does COVID affected the motivation and overall the scope for producers and directors?
That it's definitely been challenging as far as there's so in the United States certainly, and it was globally for time, is it's been very tricky to get projects off the ground. It's particularly for independent projects because of new regulations and insurance that's needed and
Yes,
protocols on set, whether it's regular testing of cast and crew, monitors on set, different rules around catering and makeup and how people interact. It's
yes,
put budgets up quite significantly, and so for unless you're a huge studio project, it's very challenging. It's like because it's can be challenging to raise the monies for these films anyway, or for films in
yes,
general anyway, and then to have to raise more monies, and then there's
yes,
also the uncertainty about when or if something's going to be able to go into
yes.
production.
The mindset has to be changed for these days, and I feel the same things for my projects.
I'm
Costs are
sure.
escalating, but has to be a shift in the mindset how this whole things are going to be activated. So yes, I totally understand
I'm I'm sure
what
with
it
your
must be
events
all
that
about. Yes,
with your wonderful events and the large events that you do, it's like also the safety measures and the
yes,
considerations, but also I would imagine the uncertainty is like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Are we going
yes,
to have shut down? Should we postpone it?
absolutely. Yes, yes, we
So
haven't even started the big events, but even a small scale events that I'm now fortunate to be back, to bring back to life. It's definitely a
excellent.
complete mindset, and I think definitely different whole different ball game how to stage any kind of activations. And the I love going to the movie theaters. What is your take on whether do we have this in the future, or you think that as a major pastime, or you think it's part of the past? You think it will ever come back?
I hope so.
I
I
hope.
hope so.
Okay,
It's
that's
such
good.
a
That's an optimist thing
I mean,
speaking.
it's a magical experience to be in a huge dark theater with the mind blowing sound and the picture larger than life, and
Yes,
laughing or crying or whatever with a group of people around you. I mean, it's such a it, it's certainly been a huge part of my life, and some of my fondest childhood memories are being at
yes,
the cinema. Um, I, it certainly has changed. It was changing even before 2020, and with COVID, I find it hard to believe that it will go away completely. I think that,
I'm
maybe
hoping.
it'll be Yeah, I hope not too.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be more event oriented.
Hmm.
I don't know, but I have to believe that it is not going to die, that there are just too
I
many
certainly
people
hope so.
that love doing
Because
it, but
for
it'll
all of us
change.
since the childhood, going to the movie is a celebration in a way. It's an opportunity, and I really hope that yes, it's not going to die. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, do you gear more of your projects toward Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV, and etc.?
I think that as a content creator, we're all intending and hoping to work with the big streamers. I mean, whether it's,
That's
Apple, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, they're CBS, HBO Max, there are so many of the
so
streamers, and
many.
that's really
Yes,
where content has gone. I mean,
yes,
that's who is doing the abundance of the financing and distribution these days. So I don't think that you can't not take them into great consideration as far as your
yes,
projects and
of course.
where you want them to live. But each outlet, and I think each project has its own personality,
Yes,
and so not every project is going to be right for every outlet.
yep,
And so there can be a certain amount of it's going to appeal to certain outlets or certain movie changers to certain distributors or exhibitors internationally or domestically. So although we want to appeal, we have to appeal to the commercial side. It's like it is
yes,
a business. It's art, but it is definitely a
yes,
business, and
of course. Balance.
finding that marriage, yes, exactly, that balance can be very challenging. um, but we always have to be looking to that
Yes.
and taking into mind, and again I think this goes back to the authenticity. It's like, where and how can you ensure that you're being authentic and true to the story that you want to tell, while at the same time making it a good business proposition and a commercial business opportunity.
So that brings me actually to the question exactly what are the new projects that you're working on these days during the COVID, and what stories are you planning to tell us all?
uh,
I would love to know, and so is everybody, I'm sure.
I have a number of film and TV projects that are in development, many of which I'm very excited about. I have a project out of the UK called the Marriage Bureau. A lot of female focused, as I think that
Okay.
you alluded to
The
that
Marriage
you
Bureau,
alluded to
okay,
earlier.
that sounds intriguing.
The Marriage Bureau, which is about two young women who were responsible for starting the UK's first marriage bureau, which is like a dating agency, but back in
Okay.
1939. So they were very trailblazing
Yes.
independent women who shook up society, and society wasn't necessarily happy about it. I like those kind of
So that,
stories.
yeah, so that's
And
that's your kind of the Tinder ground breaking,
yeah,
probably.
I like those kind of stories, and there's so many fantastic untold stories. There's a TV series by the name of Hot, which is a true story, a lot of true stories, but about five trailblazing women who were largely responsible for putting Palm Springs in California on the map in the late 20s and early 30s, and how
Mhm.
influential they were to sort of like creating this
Yes.
Hollywood playground that we've come to know and love today. I have a film out of the UK, which is another social issues film that we're currently seeking a director for. And then I actually have a couple of YA, young adult projects that are book adaptations that are in development. We're sort of in the screenwriting and or the financing stage of those now. And the thing that I really love about young adult content, and particularly if you have a great book and sort of have the IP behind it, which people are very keen on these days, but you have an opportunity to do a commercial like I was saying before, you tend to be able to do a commercial project that's going to have wide appeal. They very
Yes.
often have good messages in them. And if we can take some of that positive messaging or important messaging and put it into a film that's going to have a wide reach, that seems like a great win, because
Absolutely.
it marries those two sides, and with any
Yes.
luck we can have a positive influence at a sort of at a younger age, and it
Yes,
doesn't necessarily have to be something that is hugely heavy hitting, but
yes.
it does plant those
But
seeds of,
nevertheless, convey the message.
yeah,
The strength of the message is there.
exactly. So I have a lot that I'm
Fantastic.
incredibly excited
Oh
about,
my
and
God.
I'm
Yes.
optimistic about 2021, and that there will be the opportunity to start getting some of these moving forward.
That's fabulous. And just a few questions on your. Well, first of all, I'm here for you. I'll be happy to launch any of your projects in
Thank you,
Singapore and
Olga.
Southeast
And I
Asia.
can't
This is
wait to get out to Singapore to
exciting.
see
Well, you
you.
know that you have a home here, so you're always
Thank you.
welcome.
I
And
know, and I
yeah, but
appreciate
no,
that. Thank you.
I must say that you are the global person, and knowing a little bit about your life and where you live and how the countries that you have experienced. And what is home emotionally? What do you feel? Do you feel American or do you feel global, actually?
That's such a hard question.
So,
Um, I I mean, I definitely feel American in some ways, but I would have to say that overall, I feel more global. I feel I'm fortunate to say that I feel at home in the world, and I'm grateful and blessed to have some great friends in many different countries around the world. I'm incredibly fortunate to have traveled all over the world,
yes,
and that's my happy place. That's sort of,
that's wonderful.
yes, I definitely feel more global. And I spent about half my life in England. So, I actually am both. I'm English and American, and having
Okay,
spent time in
okay.
both places. So that that in and of itself, I immediately sort of like feel both. That makes sense.
Wonderful. And Roman, just this what you've been saying about so many different projects that you're involved in, or your masterminding, do you feel overwhelmed at times? And how does it feel to have so many things on your plate?
I
How do
love
you
to be
manage?
busy. I love I love being busy, and I definitely feel overwhelmed sometimes, and have to sort of take a moment and meditate and be like, "What am I doing?" But I love what I do, and my work does not feel like work. It feels like, it feels like play. It's like my work is my hobby,
Yes,
it's my passion, it's my career. So I love being busy. I certainly have to often reevaluate, and what you said earlier, it's like reprioritize, and look at sort of what makes sense and
yes.
reevaluate. Sometimes you need to put things on the back burner because they need time to germinate, and you can't force them through, which is not my strong suit because I get very impatient. But yeah, I do. I love being busy. You always have multiple things going on. Do
Well, we
you?
are
You
very
know.
similar in a sense with all this multitasking and passion for sure, and the different projects that we would love to be involved in. And yes, my job is, I feel it, yes, it's a playground, I should say,
That's
definitely.
a beautiful way of putting it. I love that. Yes, it's a playground.
And is there something that you always wanted to venture out and you never had a chance? Eh, Just
To venture, to
to venture
venture
out in terms of yes, doing something else completely perhaps different, or something that you always wanted to learn as a skill, or as
Well,
a
I mean,
different
I feel not career, because
career, of course.
I am very happy to say that I have always followed. I have done different things, and I have followed I don't know, followed an interesting and colorful path. And as I said, it's like I'm producing. I love producing. I'm moving into directing, which is something I always, as I mentioned, always intended, and incredibly excited about that as well. And as far as other things, I mean, the one thing that I don't know if I'll ever get around to it, but that I love the idea of, is playing the cello.
Oh, really?
I have one in my house.
Wonderful.
I've
Well,
had one for like 15 years, but I don't know how to
join
play.
the club. I'm still trying to get back and playing violin that I've studied for so many years,
Oh,
and I stopped
but you can
playing
play. Good.
because I
So
do it at
start
one point.
playing.
Yes,
I
yes.
think it's going to be a few years.
And cello is my all-time favorite instrument because it's like a human voice.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It just
Gorgeous.
resonates,
Yes.
completely washes over me. I love
Yes.
the cello. So
Yes.
that's my that's sort of the fantasy of one day I'll play the cello. I don't think professionally, however,
No, no, I understand. I
but
understand.
as
But
a
just for your
hobby.
own soul, yes,
Yeah,
it's
exactly. For my own soul. I like that.
sort of a meditation as well. Like,
Yeah, I could probably just play
it
one note back and forth and be quite happy
doesn't
and
matter. It's how
meditative.
much passion you put into this note, isn't it?
There you go. Okay, I'm going to start with one note. Starts with a
There you
single
go.
step.
Exactly. And then you can do piano or forte or fortissimo, depending on your mood.
Okay, now I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, no, I have to start with one. But look
Well,
forward to you going back and playing the
well,
violin. I want to find out when you're playing again.
that will be a day, but thank you. Really, Bronwyn, it was such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure
You
everybody
too,
who
Olga.
joined
Thank
us
you.
enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm sure you will have a lot of followers for your projects, moving forward projects, and I'm sure all our friends who haven't seen the Clemency film yet will go and watch it, and it's super important and very strong film to watch. So, and if you look at you, you're just an angelic face, and yet you're mastermind and you're behind this very, very powerful project. So I'm really, really grateful for you to share your journey with us today, and I hope to see you very soon. You know, the time
Thank
is
you.
irrelevant these days, so soon
Oh,
could
that's
be
right.
tomorrow, but it could be next year as well, but
And
it's still soon, and I'm
it's
looking
still
forward.
soon, and it'll feel like it was just moments ago. But no,
Absolutely.
I feel incredibly privileged to do what I do, and thank you for having me. It's been really, really lovely chatting with you. Thank you,
It's
Olga.
a pleasure, and have a wonderful evening, and enjoy your weekend, and keep safe. And
You
look
too.
forward to be connected and learn, and look forward for the new projects.
Stay tuned. There will be
Yes,
many.
and happy holidays, Bronwyn, to everyone
Yes.
and to your family, and happy New Year and
To
Merry Christmas.
you and to everybody here
Thank
watching,
you.
yes, happy low key holidays, but
Yes,
yes, lots
that's a
of joy.
good saying. Yes.
Thank you, Olga.
Bye.
Take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Take care. Bye.